kick in brand new flavor in your ear. I've gone from the 80s to the 90s, just like that. So good morning, folks. This is the Power Hour brought to you each and every Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. here at WURD Radio, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, wordradio.com, the App Store, a tin can, and a string. I'm sure will also work word of mouth, because I know people like go out into the world and through their masks, they share what they've heard on WURD, Black Talk Radio all day long. Well, you know, we talk some stuff on this station, and we kick it off for you for the day. We're lead off. It's an important position in baseball, but the person sitting across from me said he doesn't watch baseball. Politics is his sport. So I don't know what the political metaphor is to lead off in baseball, but he'll tell us in a second. It's Bishop Dwayne David Reister.
And sitting across from me is the man who has made AME politics his number one priority in life. It is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
Yeah. And the glue that makes all this possible each and every morning is none other than Kuwesa.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kwesa. How you doing today?
Doing okay. Yep, I made it. I'm here. I'm good.
Yeah. How was the ride in? How was the weather outside?
Weather is actually pretty nice. Well, to me it felt really good. I think it's still like in the 30s, but there's no wind or anything, so it's not bad. It's mild compared to other days, and the ride-in was easy, except I got stuck behind a truck that was going 2 miles per hour. But you know, outside of that, it was great.
Gotcha.
So that's why you should ride a motorcycle.
See, I don't know. I don't trust myself.
Yeah,
I need like my body like enclosed in like.
You'd have been past that motorcycle like, you know, it'd have been a distant memory.
That's funny. That's funny.
I would share some motorcycle stories, but I don't want to incriminate myself.
Oh boy. I guess I can't ask you what you would incriminate yourself on, because then that would be incriminating yourself.
That's exactly right. Your Honor, on his radio show, he clearly said something that he does. No, so for fear of self-incrimination, I'll leave alone. I'll just say you should get a motorcycle. And that way you'll be able to just like get around people who do 2 miles an hour a little faster.
Twanda said get a dirt bike, I'm just saying.
A dirt bike? Who said that?
Wanda said that.
Yeah, well, you know, man, they're cracking down on dirt bikers.
Yes, they are.
What do you think about that?
I actually agree with them cracking down on dirt bikers. Dirt bikes are made for dirt. And while Philadelphia, it does have some parks and things, it's not a dirt road. And so dirt bikes should be reserved for those spaces unless they are also authorized to be on the street. And then you can get your plate and you can drive on the street. But yes, and perhaps it would be helpful if Philadelphia would designate a park that people could ride their ATVs and dirt bikes in. That would probably help us out with all the people riding their dirt bikes and ATVs on the street.
Yeah, bro. Well, you know, that's a story we'll have to get to someday. Maybe get some of the young folk who ride up and down the streets on the air, and they can kind of give us their position. But this morning, let me just kind of let you know that tomorrow we're going to have a special guest on. Zoom, as you may expect, the technology Zoom has, I mean, their profits have just gone through the roof. They've gone from a business that made $16 million a year. And by the way, you know, we've been using Zoom for our Bible study for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we were like ready when pandemic hit. But now it's like everybody uses Zoom. The previous year, they made a total profit of $16 million. Last year, which is to be expected, that profit went through the roof, and they made $600 million in profit.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there's an interesting story that came out. A young guy who did some research on it. I should post it in the chat. If you can post it in the chat, that would be great, because I have it on my phone. Okay. The researcher who kind of like exposed this is going to be on our show tomorrow. because you would imagine with 600 million, that's great for the economy because that means taxes off of 600 million. But because of these great corporate loopholes, Zoom's $600 million, they're what? Yeah,
$660 million. Yes.
Oh, 660. Wow.
Yes.
So their $600+ million additional profit came with no federal taxes.
Zero.
And that may amaze you, especially considering, we're coming up on tax season, and those of you who make far less than $660 million a year, are getting hit with taxes in the 30 to 40% range. And but the guy who broke that story is going to be with us and explain that tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that conversation. I think it's Matt Garber. And again, the post, thank you, Bishop Royster posted it in the chat there for us. And so you can read that as your homework for tomorrow. But, today, another day, we know that we're getting close to being normal again, sadly, because people are starting with mass shootings again.
Yep. Not a good situation out there in Chicago.
Boulder.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I say Chicago? I was watching Southside in me last night, the show about the bombers. So, Boulder, Colorado. 10 people are now dead in this, including a police officer. I have not been able to see. Did they show a picture of the suspect yet? I know they showed a picture of him being taken away with blood going down his leg. But I don't have the information.
Well, let's just say I'm fairly certain. I'm willing to wager a significant amount of money, and I don't even bet on the fact that he's white because he was taken alive after killing 10 people.
Gotcha. Yeah. Again.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what else is there to know? I mean, he's, what can we kind of fit the description? Like, probably white, 35 to 55, loner, never thought he'd do something like this, went to church on Sunday, very nice person, helped me carry my groceries in. Yeah,
he had a very bad day.
I don't know. Maybe it's a sex addiction. Maybe it's the alcohol. He's powerless over alcohol. I don't know what the excuse is this week, but yeah, so apparently for whatever reason, life is so bad for him. He goes into King Super Store and takes the lives of 10 people who had nothing to do with whatever's going on in his life. Yeah. As far as we know at this point. I mean, again, it's still a developing story. So it's kind of a surprise to me that.
And then all of that would have been broadcast live. And then they would have had neighbors that would have been out there talking about how terrible a person they were.
Yeah. So, So anyway, we somewhat suspect they did show an image of a person being, like you said, who was in handcuffs being escorted out. I mean, the way they rolled these suspects, man, he probably stopped at Burger King or something on the way to the station.
Now, what I have not heard anybody start talking about yet is reducing, changing gun laws or taking guns off the street. I guess America's just gotten so numb to it anymore. We don't even have that conversation anymore. There's a mass shooting. And there's 2 in the course of less than 10 days.
Well, I mean, do you really think that's going to happen?
No. But, nevertheless, I mean, it would be like the moral thing to have some conversation about gun violence and the ways this happens. And the other piece about this, too, is that, there's been so much emphasis on urban gun violence, in particular amongst black folk right now. But both the mass shootings that occurred were by what we potentially believe are white men. So, where's that conversation? Let's take the guns out of the hands of white men.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah.
Don't you know that yet?
I do know that. And I also know, but if those people don't have the guns, then they can't shoot the people. I don't know. It's kind of simple equation.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't, if people need guns for all the Black Lives Matter terrorists that they're afraid of. We're going to leave the urban communities to their suburbs and try to take their stuff in the middle of the night.
We're not worried about Johnny and Jane not having enough paper in school, but we'll make sure that everybody in America has the opportunity to have at least 3 guns in their house that they can use on a regular basis.
Yeah. And again, I say this from the perspective of being a gun owner, because I live in the world that is not the world that ought to be.
Right.
And so till we get to the world that is, I mean, you got to protect yourself. But I would be the first if we had a very serious conversation about, disarming America,
right,
to participate. I mean, if it's going to be, if we're going to all be in,
universal, yes,
yeah, if we're all in, I mean, it's all good. I mean, because again, to your point, like, we don't really, I mean, we need them now because of folk like this. He was killed by, I think, an off-duty officer. I'm sorry, not killed by an off-duty officer. Now I'm thinking about a different story as well. But I don't know, man. These stories, they just run together in a continual stream and a blur.
It's like a loop.
Yeah, and again, it's sad, but I said it sarcastically, but it's true that that's how we're getting back to normal.
Yep.
So that the pandemic is coming to an end, and that we're getting back to normal. Because did you notice that over the course of the year, there weren't a lot of stories like this? It's, so mass shooters were a thing of the past. I mean, it was like, in addition to all the other great things that kind of, we talk about all the negatives, and there were a lot of negatives and a lot of loss, so I'm not going to diminish that. But when we talk about all the other kind of great things that came out, like people rediscovering their families, and, one of our favorite moments was, we were talking about the other day, D Nice came back, the DJ from the 80s and 90s, and partying on Saturday night in our living room, me and Leslie and our 2 daughters, like dancing to D Nice like we were in a club or something, So all of the nice stuff that kind of came with it, and man, you can see the air again. There aren't all these airplanes and cars, and the trees got a break from a year of carbon emissions and everything else. The world got a break from mass shooters. And now all of a sudden we hit the 1-year mark, things start going back to normal, vaccines, people start to move around, and what happens? Bam, just like before, 2 in like 10, not even 10 days. You said 10, it was like 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes with the other
Monday to Monday.
Yeah, Monday to Monday, yeah.
Monday to Monday or Monday to Tuesday, 2 mass shootings, and I mean, here schools are reopening, and so one of the fears that parents have with sending kids back to school is this stuff.
Absolutely.
Didn't have to worry about that on Zoom and virtual school.
Yep.
Man,
Sad
I tell you, it is a sad day. So, like the politicians say, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers to Boulder, Colorado, and to the trauma of the people, like saw a grandfather talking about his granddaughters, 13 and 14, were in there with their dad in the COVID vaccine line. They saw it all. The father was able to get them out safely, but, this poor guy started, crying on the interview because he's like, man, his granddaughters will live with that forever. They were right
trauma.
there.
Yeah, that trauma. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good. I mean, it's bad enough that there's COVID trauma, and I mean, we're not actually spending enough time talking about that, because we really have to talk about the mental health impacts of COVID on kids. But then you add the levels of violence, things like that on top of that they're experiencing on a daily basis. That's a lot. That's a lot.
No, it absolutely is. So, again, we're certainly praying for them, and man, I mean, like, where do you go from there? I mean, that is just absolutely awful, and hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it. But when do they start? Like, they've done so much in profiling us. By us, I mean black men. Just the constant profiling.
Yeah.
The profiling of Muslim Americans. The ways in which, we believe, we know who's, guilty before they commit a crime. We turned the world almost into the movie Minority Report. Remember that?
Yes. I saw Minority Report. Yeah, it was very interesting. Because, they were catching the people before they actually did the crime. That was very interesting.
They had a thing called the pre-crime unit.
Yes.
So they knew that you were going to commit a crime in the future, so they, preemptively arrested you. I said, That's not science fiction. That's the black community. That's law enforcement today in the black community. Like, hey, get up here, punk. Come on. I didn't do it. Well, you did something or you will do something.
That's right.
Right? You know, so we've
right.
effectively profiled everyone else. And yet it's like these mass shooters all have like one thing in common. And it's kind of like, when are we going to start profiling these guys?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we need to profile them. Although, you know, it was actually kind of frightening to me on the TV the other night was you remember the DC shooter? And they had profiled him, and they had this guy, you know, 35 to 40 white male, and it turned out to be a black man and a teenager that was doing it. So it was currently kind of frightening. But, you know, to me, I sometimes wonder, do people see stuff on TV and then get triggered and go do it? Because literally, it was on the television the night before this happened.
I was thinking that same thing, you know, but it's like, what are you going to do? You got to cover it, right? I mean, and you're right. Is it something that then like is a fire that spreads to other places and put something in the mind of someone who was already on edge? I don't know. Well, look, it's 6:20 in the morning. We're going to behave today. We've got to take a quick break. And, you know, we don't want piles of Quase's hair on the floor in the studio. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with this conversation.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Small business owners are navigating an evolving small business landscape brought on by coronavirus. However, their resilience is reflected in Bank of America's 2020 Small Business Owner Report, a nationwide survey on 1,000 small business owners, which found that nearly 1/4 of small business owners took steps in 2020 to retool their offerings and or leverage their resources to support relief efforts in their communities. While many saw an impact in their bottom line last year, small business owners anticipate a strong post-pandemic environment, and 79% believe small businesses will return to be the backbone of the U.S. economy. Inspired by the small business owners facing unprecedented challenges, Bank of America continues their commitment to help small business owners in Philadelphia with the necessary resources to sustain and grow. For more information, visit bankofamerica.com.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. Hey, want to shift gears here a little bit. I know we have another piece that we want to talk about, but I wanted to hit this piece about Evanston, Illinois, that is now the first U.S. city to fund reparations for black residents. This was a bill that was proposed by Alderperson Rue Simmons back passed in 2019 and is now beginning to take shape. And it will provide up to $25,000 per black resident in Evanston who lived there in the 60s up through 1969. And it would also, if you can prove that you were discriminated against in housing in Evanston since that time, they will give you $25,000 to put towards getting better housing. It's the first of its kind in any city. Which is, you know, an exciting piece. They've committed $10 million to the, I think it's $10 million, over the next 10 years to help to fund this. Now, Evanston's not the biggest city in the world. Let me just be clear. But, you know, they're putting money to this. And this came out of the experience of Alderwoman Ruth Simmons, who decided that, you know, this was a part of her experience growing up in Evanston, and she wanted to do something to fix this. And so Evanston, Illinois, first city, U.S. city, And notice I said city. It didn't have to come from the federal government. First city that recognized it was acting in a racist manner towards its citizens, and it has made a decision to now go ahead and give reparations to citizens who've been there long term, and for those that have been discriminated against in their housing experience.
Well, and that's the right way to do it, right? Because you find something that is very specific, because everyone is asking the question, well, how are you going to do it? Who's going to get the money? How are you going to prove it? Okay, well, here's something specific. Because, again, we always talk about housing. Housing is where most black people have their wealth concentrated. You know, those who have any kind of means, and which is why things like appraisals are important. And appraised value and the ability to resell and all these kind of things are extremely important. And so to put it into housing, now some people will say, well, that's crazy because housing discrimination, that's a thing of the past.
No, it's not.
Maybe you missed the story. You know who we should get on? Oh my God, I had her on a previous show. Not her, it was actually a guy who did some research on housing disparities in Philadelphia, like modern day redlining. And how they don't call it that anymore. They're more sophisticated, but it was shown in places like, they actually studied Point Breeze, how like there's a particular local bank that was giving money to white residents with like shaky or very short like work history and like kind of borderline credit. And then long-term black residents who had like a better credit profile a lot of times and more, stability, who own their homes already, could not get money to improve their homes. This happened this story came out like 2 years ago. So some of the folk who are listening may remember that story. But when you talk about, housing discrimination, again, this is not something from back in the day. This is something that continues to happen. Now, the $25,000 stipend, that's not, it's not much. It's not like a total game changer. Nobody's going to retire off of that. But I think it's an important step that if a local government, a suburb, can do that, then what can happen in a city like Chicago or a state like New York or California or the federal government? You got to put people, we have got to address we're the only people who've been told, get over it.
Well, here's the other thing about it, too. They're funding this money by putting a 3% tax on marijuana sales. And part of that is the fact that they said that a preponderance of their arrests in the 70s and 80s for marijuana in Evanston were black folk who were put in jail, have records now, but now they have this legal marijuana industry, and so they're taxing the marijuana industry. And as many folk know, we've talked about this on the show before, a lot of the store owners and growers of this marijuana that's now, quote unquote, not necessarily legal, but delegalized, are white folk that are benefiting off of an industry that was ultimately created in some communities by black folk, right? That were marketing, selling, and distributing marijuana. And so they're using they're taxing the marijuana sales to be able to fund this.
Yeah. Well, Oakland has Oakland has kind of a different spin on what we might call reparations. What they're doing with persons who had marijuana convictions in the past is that, so any business that's opening up, like getting a cannabis license and the ability to like basically sell weed, medical, recreational, whatever, has to have, one of their business partners has to have had a marijuana conviction. Did we talk about this before?
Right. If they have a conviction, they can't open the store, or
No. You have to have, in
Oakland, you have to have a conviction to be able to open the store.
Yeah, one of the owners of the business has to, as a means of making it right, because of the fact. Yeah, that's like crazy.
That's a great idea.
Well, it's Oakland, man. It's the Bay. We're always, ahead of the game. We were recycling when I was a child in the 70s. Y'all were like, recycling? What is that? Something with bicycles? No, recycling. So yeah, so again, people are finding creative ways to right a historic wrong that continues to dog us. I was on a program yesterday. It was on Zoom with Black architects. I was the only non-architect on it.
Okay.
And it's called the program was called Equity Talks. And I guess they wanted me on there because this is the Community Design Collaborative. They do, so anybody who's out there listening, if you have a building in the city, a church or some kind of nonprofit, you should look at the Community Design Collaborative if you're trying to get some kind of work done and you can't afford an architect and a team to come give you, basically a professional opinion. They did like $60,000 worth of work for us in the past, creating a new building space. And I mean, did everything, like the blueprints,
concept, everything. Yeah.
So I was on to kind of talk about what they've done for us. But what was extremely apparent from the very beginning of the conversation with these Black architects is they were talking about how design in the community and the ways in which Black architects are not heard and seen. It started to remind me then that, the difference in Black and white can even be seen through architecture. And let's just talk church. Yeah. Let's talk church architecture. So the AME Church, which came out of the White Methodist Church, for people who don't know, walked out of segregated pews. Yeah. Right. We left St. George's because we didn't want to sit in the back of the church. Richard Allen and Absalom Jones and others said, we were enslaved. We got our freedom. We ain't doing this again. Walked out. Now, they'd helped build St. George's, right? And so they started these modest little buildings. Our first building was in a blacksmith shop, turned into a church. And if you look at the ways in which the Methodist Church and the AME Church, the acquisition of buildings and land and wealth over the 200 plus years have gone, I guarantee you that the gap between us mirrors the wealth gap in America for Black and white.
Wow. Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Through architecture, it tells a story. People say, why do these Black churches look all run down? Well, let's look at the wealth gap. Then you look at the wealth gap, you got to look at the pay gap.
So I'm just curious, I wonder if the United Methodist Church is talking about giving reparations to the AME Church.
I bring it up all the time. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to come to some kumbaya meeting where we wash each other's feet and, talk about how wrong it was. I'm like, put some money on the table.
I'm all down for that. I am down for that.
Yeah, I'm saying churches can lead the way. Show the government what equity looks like.
Some of the UCC churches are having that conversation. I know that the Potomac Association down in Washington, D.C. is having that conversation amongst themselves, trying to figure out what's the pathway towards reparations. So they're trying to do that. Hey, I know we got this other article. Can I just get this piece in real quick?
Yeah,
so since you're always joking about this, so congratulations to Kim Janey, who was the president of City Council in Boston, who becomes the first woman and person of color to be Boston mayor. Marty Walsh was confirmed and sworn in yesterday as President Biden's labor secretary. And now President Janey, who is Black, will step into the role of acting mayor, scheduled to have a ceremonial swearing in Wednesday. So most of the mayors of Boston have been Irish American male. And she is the first woman and the first person of color to be the mayor of Boston. So it will be an acting role until they do some regular they have to do an election. But, congratulations to Mayor Janey in Boston.
Wow. And she got the natural hair look, too.
Yeah, she absolutely has a natural hair look. Got it all out. And she's 56 years old. She looks much younger than that, by the way. And it's just actually pretty exciting that she is going to do that. So it's really cool.
Well, man, she probably drinks a lot of Dunkin'. She's from Boston. Kim, Janie from Boston. Yes. Your homie. That's your homie.
And actually, I mean, when Antonio was on the show, she was from Massachusetts, and although she was Black, she still had that heavy Boston accent. So,
well, wait, man, Nick is on
I
this
see Nick
morning
back.
again.
Like, why is he stalking us?
After he said after the wealth gap and the pay gap, you got to talk about the gap band. Hey, so Nick, you'll appreciate this story. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Since he's always saying I look like dude from Tag Team, the rap group from the Geico commercial. There's a really great story about them and the way in which that jingle came about. And I'm gonna put it there. I actually feel like we need to reach out to them and get them on the show. They're doing media these days.
Are they?
So
Okay.
yeah, those two, they've been working, man. It's not like they were like they had to go find them like on a corner somewhere and like, hey, come revise your song. I mean, these brothers are like working, and but yeah, we gotta try to bring them on. But it's a great story. So shout out to the Boston mayor, man. I mean, it's like so much stuff to get to, but one of the things that we have to talk about is you remember the Facebook post story in Philly a couple of years ago with the officers.
Yeah.
The story that was done, the Plainview Project.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently they didn't get them all.
Well, we knew that.
The Plainview Project was out to expose police officers on social media who were basically acting in ways that officers should not. They're
That's
cops,
correct.
And they're out there posting things that were racist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, transphobic, homophobic, just put anything with phobic in front of it. That's what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And but they spent so much time apparently Plainview in Philadelphia that they missed Pittsburgh.
Huh.
That's right, Steeler fans.
Steeler Nation.
Yep. Steel curtain. It's called the Pittsburgh Area Police Break Room. The break room was a place created to go and just kind of, cops could hang out, decompress, rant even, and kind of just talk about the pressures of being law enforcement, LEOs, law enforcement officers. And somehow over the course of the last year, it turned into what you would expect. Like a pro-Trump space that started to deride things like Black Lives Matter and Democrats, and BLM protesters were called terrorists and thugs in that space, and really started getting very toxic. One 911 operator had posted on her page, on her public page, something to the effect of something that they felt was out of bounds. I mean, it wasn't even bad. It was just, she's just questioning the FOP's decision, I think, to endorse Trump, that they don't speak for everybody.
Right.
I believe that was the piece. But if I'm mixing it up, I'm sorry, no. The 911 operator actually was saying that Blue Lives Matter is a false equivalent to Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Because BLM folk, you're born black. You're not born blue. Blue is a choice. And so that's what she said. Man, these folk went in hard for her and are basically saying that she should be fired, raise hell, get her out of there. One of the people leading the efforts, his Facebook name is Tommy Bear.
Tommy Bear.
Tommy Bear. So innocent sounding. But Tommy Bear is actually Tommy True, who, you might remember this. Last year, if you remember seeing a story of two white officers on a public school bus with some black high schoolers roughing up a 15-year-old black girl, tossing her around.
Yes.
Yeah. Tommy was one of them.
Oh, boy.
He's staying true.
Well,
so
that's the last name, isn't it? Tommy True.
Yeah, True. Yeah, True. Yeah, I believe you pronounce it True. Trieu. Trieu True. But yeah, so Tommy Bear, so they just expressing it, hey, we should be able to get her fired. But that's Tommy Bear if you need him. I'd be careful if you drive through West Mifflin and the western part of PA. Are you kidding? So they were a private group. They had a judge in the group, a city council member in the group, a lot of retired law enforcement in the group. And it was a private page that's been exposed by somebody in the group who said, I'm tired of this crap. and they made it public, and now you can't find the group.
I took that down real quick. Folk were trying to protect it. I hope somebody took some pictures of the group before they did that. Took some screenshots.
Oh no, it's all out there.
That's all out there. Okay.
Yeah, it's too late now. I mean, that. So what was out there is out there, but now they've disbanded the group. But I mean, this is what we're talking about, like undermining confidence in the community within law enforcement, which brings me back to what I always say, which is this is why you need civilian-led oversight of policing.
Absolutely.
Not just of discipline. We'll start there. That's a beginning. But in Philadelphia, for example, at the end of the day, the civilians need to be in charge of the budget, the policy, the hiring, and the firing, in addition to everything else. And I know someone will say, but Mark, we already have that. It's called an election. That's why we have a mayor and a city council. Please. You can't take money from the FOP for elections and then say, trust us, we will take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
It don't work that way.
It does not work that way.
No.
It does not work that way at all. This is, first of all, this is why we know the criminal justice system is not fair or legal, right? Because all these people are biased. You got a judge, you got a 911 operator, right? That's actually really frightening because if a 911 operator gets somebody that they can pretty much tell from their voice that they're black, the question is, do they rush to get through? Do they push to make sure that the officers get there in a timely fashion? Do they stay on the line? Or do they I'm just going to let it go?
Well, to your point, so check this. So in the story, though, the 911 operator is actually speaking up on behalf of the community. But to your point, the pressure that the cops in the group were placing on her is that she was not living up to what you just said.
Yeah.
The stereotype, which is that you're supposed to be with us. Wait, dude, it's a 911 operator.
You expect them to be neutral and trying to take care of everybody.
I didn't know 911 operators had to pick a side. It's like, hello, operator, I'm afraid for my life. Excuse me, are you black or are you white? Is the person chasing you black or white? I'm like, dude, look, we just need help in this moment. But the idea that cops would publicly put pressure to fire a 911 operator for a simple statement such as, I think blue lives matter and black lives matter, that's a false equivalency, that now we want to run that operator out the paint is exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Scary movie. It's 6:42. We got to take a quick commercial break, and we still got a little bit of time for another couple of stories. And don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have the person who wrote about the fact that Zoom, not Lionel Richie and Commodore Zoom, but the other Zoom, the one that you're on all day long with your Zoom, your Zoom zombie.
Here now.
Right. God, we better quickly take a break. They went from $16 million to a $660 million profit in a year, but pay zero in federal taxes. We're going to find out how that happened. Good Lord, that's horrible. Tomorrow, but we'll be right back on the other side.
You probably heard it before, but one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Don't miss the Dr. Emeka Show
on its brand new day and time.
Sundays from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. beginning Sunday, April 4th.
Dr. Emeka.
Exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Now, a traffic update
on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report's sponsored by Staples Stores. Some volume getting busy on 95 southbound, coming down through Bridge through construction again. Allegheny through Girard, northbound side, not a bad ride through the city. Westbound volume delays from 8th Street out through Broad. Schuylkill Expressway, eastbound city through the Boulevard, a bit slow westbound side. City out to Belmont, some light volume there. The Boulevard Route 1 southbound delays building from Broad down through Fox through that construction. In New Jersey, 168 between Church Street and Jim Zimmerman Road, restrictions there because of an accident down pulling down wires involved there. Staples has everything your business needs to ship, like UPS shipping services. Now get 20% off UPS Express shipping service at Staples, plus buy one, get one free on decorative shipping supplies. In-store only, offer ends 4/3/21. While supplies last, exclusions apply. Staples. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Low clouds and some areas of fog this morning will clear out for bright sunshine and a nice warm-up from the 40s this morning to near 60 at lunchtime, and then partly sunny skies this afternoon at a high of 68. Clouds increasing tonight. We've got rain coming tomorrow. That'll keep things cooler. 48 in the morning, high of 58 in the afternoon as the rain tapers off later in the day. Sunshine breaks through the clouds on Thursday, 51 the low, heading for the 70s under partly sunny skies, a high of 74. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We have touched on a variety of issues here this morning that we have talked about that have been happening in just across the country, including the first black reparations of any city. Evanston, Illinois is doing that. We talked about the first black and female mayor, first female and black mayor, two separate things, in Boston. And so congratulations to Kim Janey, who is the new mayor. She was a former president of city council there and has now become the first black mayor of Boston. All the other mayors, for the most part, were Irish-American men. And this is a very exciting moment. It's acting mayor. She, until they do an election, Mayor Marty Walsh, the previous mayor, was approved to be the Secretary of Labor for President Joe Biden. And we were talking about the Colorado shooting this morning and all these things that are happening, multiplicity of things that continue to impact us each and every day across our country, and just feeling the pain of that moment. 2 mass shootings in less than a week. You're not on the picture, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah.
I ran to get some coffee.
Oh, okay. I thought,
And I couldn't let people see my Zoom outfit.
Your Zoom outfit.
I'm always dressed, properly.
From the head up, from the waist up, you're great.
I don't want to see my crazy pajamas. I'm not a cat.
You are not a cat. All right. You want to talk about this article out of the Washington Post about preachers and their $5,000 sneakers?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just say this, that another story we need to follow up on this week is from the 19th, and I meant to send this to you. We have a good friend who is over the 19th, Aaron Haynes, and this is one of the persons who writes for her in the 19th. But there was a story that came out on the difference between the wages of interns in the Congress, who are overwhelmingly white, no surprise there, and the kind of money that they're making. It's just, again, all these stories trend the same direction, don't they? I mean, it's like, you kind of it doesn't matter. You pick an industry. It's like kind of like popcorn. Just, here, close your eyes, put your hand in it, just pull out an industry, boom. Oh, same thing. Trucking, same thing. You know what I mean? Longshoremen, same thing. Oh, women's sports, men's sports. I mean, we didn't talk about that story.
No, that was crazy. I mean, the women, the NCAA finals for this tournament for the women, they were treated terrible.
They were given a rack of dumbbells, not even the big ones. They were given like a rack, looked like it went up maybe to like 30 or 40 pounds. And the men's weight room looked like something out of the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a real thing. I thought it was like a gag.
Right.
It was a real, but they did put a 6-foot table in with some bottled water, and towels. So there's that.
Yeah.
Now, and yet, and so, we continue to say that misogyny is like a figment of women's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
We said yesterday, look, and nobody was convicting Deshaun Watson. We brought the Deshaun Watson story up simply to say this, that even with 12 accusations of women accusing him of varying degrees of inappropriate behavior all the way to sexual assault, that there are literally teams that are still vying for his services. If Michael Vick were still playing and had 12 accusations about dogfighting and not yet convicted, nobody would touch him. Because apparently we value dogs more than women.
Well,
right? If Colin Kaepernick was convicted for nothing, he knelt down, can't get a job. It's a conspiracy to keep him out the NFL.
Absolutely.
And so, but you can be accused of raping women, beating up your spouse, and everything else that regarding, women, and still work actively in the NFL. And that says something. And the story about the NCAA is just another example of it. I mean, you have two high-profile programs. Now, I don't watch women's NCAA basketball. That's a personal choice. I just don't care for it. It's not my cup of tea. But it's the same. But now, you talk about tennis, I don't watch men's tennis. I think women's tennis is way better. Again, it's a personal preference. But I support both. And the fact that you would have in 2021, somebody would literally make a conscious decision to put in what looks like an afterthought and call that the women's weight room when you go all the way out of your way in the exact same tournament for the men tells you everything you need to know. I mean, it's just, we don't make this stuff up. Make the stuff up. We're just calling it like we see it. Tell us if we're looking at the wrong painting, because that's what it looks like to me.
And, the question you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, who is the person that benefits from all this misogyny, racism, and sexism?
What's the answer?
White men. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the basketball players that are benefiting from the NCAA tournament, right? But they want to make that money off of the tournament, right? There's the gambling, not to mention the the fees for the tournament, the advertisement, all those things. I mean, who's making that money? They don't feel like they make the same number of money off the NCAA women's tournament that they do off the men's tournament, right? When you think about it at the end of the day, oh yeah, we'll let you beat up your wife and, do all kinds of crazy things, have sexual accusations because I'm making hundreds of millions of dollars every year off your behind. And, even though you might get paid millions, I get paid hundreds of millions. And so I'm going to keep you in there as long as I can so that I can get paid. And then when the heat gets too high and I need to ditch you so I can still make my hundreds of millions, I'm going to drop you like a hot potato.
Yeah,
that's what this is all about. This is all about economic power. It's about economic power and control. And the people who are making the money generally are not women, whether they're white or black men. It is white men that are generally. Now, I'm not talking about all white men. I mean, because somebody like it's not all white men. You're right. It is the 1% white men like Donald Trump that are going to exploit and make money off of people and then kick them to the curb like they never existed. Ask Omarosa.
Yeah, well, look, and it's not just sports like that where.
No, it's everything.
Look at tennis. Again, dude, in tennis, who is the most popular tennis player in the world? What name pops up first when you think of tennis? You think of Serena
Williams.
You don't think of like Federer or Nadal. I mean, you got to stop and kind of think. You say women's tennis, you think Serena. Right. You think Venus. I mean, just on and on. And Naomi, right. So you think of like the most dominant players, especially in the psyche of the world, have been. I mean, that's why people tune into tennis these days. I'm serious. if they got rid of men's tennis, nobody would complain. You get rid of women's tennis, it's going to be a major issue because they can just flat out ball. But if there was a story out just a couple of years ago talking about the discrepancy in their pay, so it's not even the argument of, well, the men in NCAA, men's in the basketball tournament, the men's tournament makes more money. That's why, because even in a sport where advertising dollars are dominated by who's tuning in, where women are clearly bringing in more money because of the advertisers in tennis, the pay is still not reflected.
That's right. That's right. That's problematic.
But again, like I said, you know, you can fight dogs and get run out the NFL even before you're convicted. But beat up your wife or your girlfriend, you know, we're going to send you to a program. But, bro, we need you out there on Sunday, any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday. We'll put up with all your stuff. It's going to make me some money. Put some points on the board, make me some money. Get me into the playoff season so we can get those bonuses and sell more of our jerseys. Yes, you did what last night? No, that's cool. You're all right. It's all good. It's all good. When she get out of the hospital, we're gonna send some flowers. Okay.
Oh, they do flowers now.
This is why I don't
step up. Come on now. We just said this in every industry. Now you're making a false equivalency. They ain't got nothing to do with sports.
It has everything to do with sports. It has everything to do toxic masculinity. That's what it has everything to do with.
That's got to come on. All right. I'm so glad we're out of time right now. You just it has nothing to do with sports.
It has everything to do with sports. The gladiators, the mentality, the slaves. Anyway, so, okay. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for checking us out here on the Power Hour today. We'll be back tomorrow. Somehow we got to get this story in about preachers and their $5,000 sneakers. So we need to talk about that tomorrow or something like that. But anyway, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinion. And we have plenty of them. Thank you, Kwesa, for holding down the boards. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for everything you do. Thank you to everybody that checked us out on the air, on YouTube, on Facebook, on the app, by whatever means that you listen to us each and every day. We deeply appreciate you. Listen, stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones, and do us and yourselves a favor. Be intentional today. Go out and say, I'm going to change the damn world. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.